This house is too big for you alone." Aaron said it like a statement of fact. Not with cruelty, but with the smooth, practiced tone of someone who had already rehearsed the scene. Melissa stood beside him, silent at first, then slid a folder across my kitchen table as if we were in a real estate office instead of my home. "Just a few options," she said too brightly. "Sunrise Hollow has excellent reviews, and activities too. You wouldn't believe the pool." I looked down at the glossy brochure. On the front, a silver-haired woman was laughing beside a shuffleboard court. In the background, people smiled over jigsaw puzzles and lukewarm coffee. I didn't say a word. I just poured myself another cup of coffee and listened to the quiet hum of the refrigerator. It was the same refrigerator that had stored Aaron's birthday cakes and leftover meatloaf. I'd bought it with Richard the year Aaron turned 11. We'd argued over the color, finally settled on white, and laughed when the freezer door squeaked every time we opened it. Melissa kept talking. "There's a wait list for the 2-bedroom units, but if we get on it now, you'll have first pick by June. That gives you time to sell the house pack up." I turned away, looked out the window. The maple tree Richard planted was starting to bloom again. Soft green tips pushing through winter's memory. I nodded, not because I agreed, but because I needed a second longer to steady myself. Aaron added, "We're only trying to help." I wrote down the date on the back of an envelope. Not for them, for me. Because someday, when I needed to remember the moment I stopped pretending I wanted it in writing, it wasn't the first time they'd hinted I was too much for them to manage, but it was the first time they used words that sharp. So I smiled, took a sip of coffee, and said nothing. But inside, something had already shifted. That night, I opened the drawer in the hallway and pulled out the shoebox marked Aaron, kindergarten. It started with groceries. Just a few things here and there when Aaron and Melissa were first getting settled. He had just been laid off from the hardware store, and Melissa said her hours were in flux. I paid for their groceries that week, and then the next. Then it was the car. They couldn't afford the repairs, and they needed it for Aaron to start his new job. I wired the money, quick, easy, no questions. Melissa texted a heart emoji. When Kevin, their oldest, needed braces, I covered that too. He never thanked me. I told myself teenagers were like that. Then the house. They bought too big too soon. A 5-bedroom colonial in a gated neighborhood they couldn't afford. Aaron called it an investment. Melissa called it a dream, and I, the dream sponsor, started covering the mortgage. $3,850 every month. Eventually the calls stopped. Not because they didn't need me, but because they didn't feel the need to ask anymore. I had autopay set up for their credit card, their gas bill, Melissa's subscription boxes, gym memberships, the school's activity fees. I even remember setting up their streaming services when they got a smart TV. One day, they asked me to babysit. I said yes, like always. When I arrived, Melissa was already halfway out the door in heels, laughing into her phone. "Thanks, Clarabeth," she said, without looking at me. "The reservation's at 7. I stayed with the kids until midnight. After they moved to a bigger house, Aaron brought me a pie from the bakery I used to love. Just a thank you," he said. It tasted like silence. I never opened the biscuit tin. It sat in my kitchen cabinet, dusty and floral, where the sugar used to go. Inside were 6 years of folded receipts, transfer confirmations, notes I'd scribbled on envelopes to remember who needed what. Tonight I opened it. I counted every slip, every favor, added the totals on a yellow legal pad, line by line. The number sat there staring back like a stranger. $280 for $10. I put the lid back on the tin and placed it in the middle of the kitchen table. Then I turned off the light. The next morning, I walked outside and ran my fingers through the rosemary bush near the kitchen window. Richard planted it. Our second year here said it would keep the rabbits out. It never did, but we kept it anyway. a reminder that things don't have to work perfectly to be loved. The lawn was still soft from last night's rain. I took the long path around the yard past the bird bath he fixed 3 times the row of rose bushes we argued over the bench we found at the estate sale, the one he carried himself, even though his back ached for days. He collapsed right there on the lawn 6 years ago, just shy of noon. The paramedics said it was quick. Massive heart attack. I held his hand while they tried, but I already knew he was gone. I stayed. I couldn't imagine leaving the house we built nail by nail, paycheck by paycheck. Every corner holds something of us. The chip in the tile from where Aaron dropped his backpack. The scratched banister from Sophie's princess heels. But now Aaron wants it all gone. Not because I can't live here. Because it's inefficient. Because the property taxes are a waste. Because they've already found a new neighborhood in Sycamore Hill with better schools and a kitchen island that Melissa won't stop gushing about. Not for me, not for my comfort or care. They want me to trade everything I've known for water aerobics and card games with strangers, so they can start over in a house I've never seen with a down payment I'm expected to provide. They've even picked out the paint colors. I looked back at the window from the garden, and for a second, I saw my reflection layered over the rosemary, the roses the place Richard made with his hands. Aaron's never touched a shovel. He never once watered this garden. And now he wants the deed. The young man at the bank was polite. His name was Marcus, and he offered me a cup of coffee before we started. I declined. I'd already had 2 that morning, one for strength, the other for clarity. We sat side by side, and I slid a folded paper across the table. My login details. I need to see everything I said, every transfer, every auto payment. He nodded and turned the monitor toward me. I didn't breathe as the list populated. Page after page, 87 recurring payments, Aaron's mortgage, Melissa's credit cards, Kevin Jr.'s streaming services, dance fees, car repairs, school apps, subscriptions I'd never heard of, gym memberships, grocery deliveries. Not one had my name attached to the benefit, just my name on the withdrawal. I stared at the screen until the lines blurred. The total made my heart pound, not for the money lost, but for what it had cost me to keep them comfortable. No cruise with Richard. No new glasses. That roof leak still growing a brown stain above my bedroom window. Would you like to go through them one by one? Marcus asked softly. No, I said. Cancel all of them. He paused. All yes. Every last one. He didn't question it. Just started typing. One by one the lifelines snapped. I sat still as they disappeared. Years of quiet giving erased with keystrokes. No warning call, no explanation text, no final offer. Because this time, I wasn't giving them the chance to talk me out of it. When Marcus was done, I asked him to print the confirmation. I folded it and placed it in my purse next to my reading glasses, scratched and outdated, but mine. I thanked him and left. The sun was sharp as I stepped outside. For the first time in years, I walked without the weight of someone else's needs dragging behind me. Back at home, the phone started ringing. The first of many calls I wouldn't answer. I let it go to voicemail, because tomorrow I had an appointment with my lawyer. The phone rang at 8:17 a.m. I let it ring through the first time. It rang again at 8:19, then again. Melissa's name lit up the screen each time. On the 4th call, I answered. Dorothy, she said sharply. She never used my name unless something was wrong. There's been a mistake. Our mortgage payment didn't go through. I walked to the sink, turned off the tap, and said calmly, There's no mistake. There was silence. Then a faint laugh. I don't think you understand. We rely on that. The bank already sent a notice. We could lose the house. I understand, I said. You can't just stop paying. She snapped, her voice rising. That's not how this works. But I did, I said. I stopped paying. Another silence. This one longer, heavier. Her tone shifted fast, no longer sharp, but sugar-coated. If this is about the brochure, Dorothy, we were just thinking of your well-being. You know that. Aaron and I only want what's best for you. What's best for me, I said, is knowing where my money goes. Don't do this, she hissed. You'll ruin everything. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. You'll make us lose the house. That house you chose instead of helping with repairs here. That house I never saw. That house bought with promises and comfort built on mine. You don't understand, Dorothy, I do, I interrupted. She went quiet. I understand better than I ever have, I added. Then I hung up. No yelling, no swearing, just a click, and the sound of my own breathing steady and quiet in my kitchen. The same kitchen she once criticized for having outdated counters. The silence after that call was different. It didn't feel empty. It felt clean. No apology came. Only more missed calls. One after the other. But not from Aaron. Not yet. He waited until it hit him personally. It was nearly 10 when the knock came. I was already in my nightgown reading with the lamp low, but I knew that knock. Not urgent, not afraid, just persistent. I opened the door to find Aaron on the porch. No flowers, no apology, just his hands shoved in his coat pockets, his shoulders hunched like a schoolboy who'd been called in late. Can we talk? He asked. I stepped aside. He didn't come in. Just stood there looking past me into the house he'd grown up in, as if he no longer recognized it. I'm not here to fight, he said. I just need to understand. Why now? I leaned against the doorframe. Because I remembered this house has a lock. And that I have a key. He looked down at his shoes. We were trying to help. Were you? I asked. Because help usually starts with a question. You didn't ask me what I wanted, Aaron. You planned it. You brought a brochure. He looked up. You were struggling, Mom. I shook my head. I was grieving. That's not the same thing. He didn't reply. You planned a whole future for me, I said. A facility. A for sale sign. A down payment for your new life. And in all those plans, you never once asked me how I felt. Not once. I didn't mean to hurt you, he mumbled. You didn't think enough to even risk it, I said. You just assumed I'd say yes, like I always have. He finally stepped back, blinking. So what now? I crossed my arms. Now I live my life. And you live yours. He nodded slowly, like he was absorbing something heavier than he expected. I don't hate you, Aaron, I said gently. But I've stopped funding the version of you that forgets I exist when you're not in need. He didn't argue, just turned and walked back to his car without another word. I watched his taillights vanish down the street, then closed the door. The next morning, I called my lawyer. I sat across from Mr. Hartwell, the same man who helped Richard and me draft our will decades ago. Back then, it was simple everything to Aaron, our only child. We were younger, hopeful. We thought love and inheritance naturally followed the same path. Now I knew better. I'd like to make some changes, I said. My voice didn't tremble. He nodded, pen in hand, ready. The house I began, the savings accounts, Richard's pension, and my IRA, all of it should go into a trust. For Elise. She'll receive it when she turns 25. He paused. Any conditions, she must complete school and work, any job. She just needs to try. He wrote it down. And Aaron? He asked, looking up. I thought about it. Not with anger, but clarity. $1. His pen stopped. You're sure? I nodded. He's given me silence dismissal and debt for 7 years. That's what I'll reflect back. A symbolic return. Mr. Hartwell didn't judge. He only asked, do you want to leave a letter with it? No? Let the amount speak. It wasn't about vengeance. I didn't want courtroom drama or raised voices when I was gone. I wanted Elise to know that love had been seen and returned. And I wanted Aaron to know that neglect carries a weight. That numbers in the end do tell stories. We finalized the papers. I signed each page with a steady hand. He notarized them, then slid the final document into a folder and handed it to me. "Elise will be grateful," he said. "She already is," I replied. I thought of her drying dishes next to me last Thanksgiving, saying quietly, "I see you, Grandma." 4 words that had meant more than all the expensive dinners and fancy house tours Aaron ever showed off. As I left the office, the wind was sharp outside, but it didn't chill me. I had settled something important. That night, I slept in Richard's armchair, the one I hadn't been able to part with. And for the first time in years, I didn't dream about being left behind. The house doesn't creak from footsteps anymore, only the settling of old wood in the evenings, soft and familiar. I've stopped checking my phone for bank alerts. They've stopped finally. No more overdrafts caused by someone else. No voicemails that begin with "Dorothy, we need to talk," followed by lists of things I was expected to fix. The silence is not loneliness. It's air returning to my lungs. I had the roof patched last week, paid in full. The handyman complimented the house, said it had good bones. I liked that. I told him it was built with love and sweat and not 1 ounce of entitlement. I bought new glasses. My vision was worse than I'd admitted, but I'd always told myself to wait. Wait until Aaron was done with the house renovations. Wait until Melissa found steadier hours. Wait until Kevin Jr. applied to college he never did. No more waiting now. I booked a trip. Just a short one. A weekend in Savannah somewhere with flowers and warm sidewalks. I haven't flown in years. I don't know what I'll pack, but I'm going. Yesterday I baked bread. A single loaf, just enough for me. I sat with a warm sliced butter melting into the crust and realized I'd never tasted it like that before. It wasn't celebration bread or holiday bread or company's coming bread. It was just mine. Elise came over on Sunday. She brought wildflowers in a mason jar and a pair of muddy sneakers. We watered the garden together. She told me about her classes, how she's thinking of changing majors, and how she cried watching an old movie because the grandma reminded me of you. We laughed so much we forgot to eat lunch. Later, as she helped me stack books on the shelf, she looked around and said, "It feels better in here now." I knew exactly what she meant. After she left, I stood in the hallway for a long time, staring at the photo of Richard and me from 1974. We looked so young, so certain. And still somehow, I think he would be proud of who I've become. I heard the voicemail late. I hadn't checked for hours, maybe longer. The house had been too peaceful, the kind of quiet that fills you instead of echoing around you. Aaron's name flashed on the screen. For a moment, I braced myself. But the voice that came through wasn't angry. It wasn't demanding or defensive. It was quiet. "Hey, Mom. I've been thinking. A lot. I get it now." There was a pause. "I messed up. We messed up. I know that probably doesn't mean much now, but I'm sorry. I really am." Another pause, longer this time. "I was just wondering if maybe you'd want to get coffee. No expectations. Just talk. I miss you." The line ended with silence, not a goodbye. I listened once, then again. The second time, I noticed the hesitation in his voice. Not guilt exactly, but maybe something close. He didn't sound like the boy who used to slam his door or the man who sat in my kitchen with a retirement brochure. He sounded unsure, small. I didn't call him back. Not out of anger, and not because I didn't want to, but because I finally understand that not every crack needs to be filled the moment it appears. Some things need time to settle. Some silences deserve their space. I saved the message. I didn't delete it. I didn't pretend it never came. But I didn't rush to make it better either. For so long, my instinct was to fix, to soothe, to step in, before anyone else had to feel discomfort. I thought that was love. Maybe it was in a way, but it left so little room for me. Now I walk slower. I answer slower. I give myself the grace of the pause. Aaron's words aren't erased. They're just waiting on the phone in the air. Tomorrow, I might listen again, but tonight, I wrap myself in a quiet blanket, pour tea for one, and sit beneath the glow of the porch light that I turned on just for myself. And in that quiet space, something shifts, something begins. The morning light comes through the kitchen window and lands right where Richard's chair used to be. I sit across from that spot now, holding the mug Elise bought me last Christmas. It says, "One strong cup" in cursive script. I never used to like things with sayings on them. Now I do. The tiles in the garden shimmer with dew. I laid them with Richard in our third spring here when the yard was just dirt and plans. We used to joke about adding a fountain. We never did. But I don't mind. The silence has a rhythm now. The house doesn't feel too big. It feels wide enough for breath, for healing, for small music in the afternoons and the creak of old wood that no longer scares me. I don't rush to fill the rooms. I let them echo a little. Aaron hasn't called again. The voicemail sits saved in my phone next to old photos and voice memos of grocery lists I never finished. I think he meant what he said, or at least he meant to say something. But I've learned that not every olive branch needs to be reached for right away. I know what I meant when I said no, when I canceled the payments, when I rewrote the will, when I chose myself. I meant it fully. The doorbell rings around noon. It's Elise holding a paper bag and grinning like she always does. We sit on the porch. We eat soft bread with jam. She asks if she can plant lavender in the corner by the fence. "Only if you help me water it," I say. She nods, already pulling her hair back into a ponytail. It's the same color mine was once. The sun shifts as we carry the pots outside. I feel the warmth against my arms and the familiar ache in my knees, but I don't sit down yet. There's something comforting about the weight of a watering can in my hand. It's the kind of work that asks nothing except care. And today I have just enough to give.